What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Eric, Mr. Cincinnati Robinson, and conspicuous by his absence is the podcast dad. He is off doing dad things today. He does have a shoot life outside of this podcast, so I'm going to give him the day off, especially since we just hung out for Elimination Chamber. But it's time for our favorite part of this show. We get to interview a wrestler. It's probably one of the coolest parts of this job that we've given ourselves, and this is no different. We are joined by an individual who is based out of the UK, has competed for World War Wrestling, and is the longest reigning Ignite Wrestling Pro Champion, clocking in at 14 months. He is the Godfighter, Corey McRae. How are you doing, Corey?
Yes, boss. How are you? How you doing? I'm good, man.
Good. Appreciate you joining me today. Definitely excited to talk to you. Seen a lot of what you're doing on social media, and definitely wanted to make sure we had a conversation with you. So let's just get on into it. Here at the Wrestling Junkies. Yeah. So here at the Wrestling Junkies, we think that wrestlers are superheroes or supervillains. Either way, they all have an origin story. So, Corey, tell us about your earliest memories of professional wrestling.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so I certainly never been. So most people, when you interview them, they tell you their favourite wrestlers growing up or how they got into it. But for me, I never actually liked wrestling growing up. No, it wasn't my cup of tea. I was more the martial arts side. And then, but I'd see your little bits of your John Cena's, little clips of that, but never really took me fancy. And it wasn't until I was 17, 18, so we're going 8-9 years ago. One of my friends was having his first ever pro show. The training school that he was at would run pro shows on the side, and he'd finally got promoted to that pro show. So he was having his first match, and I thought, as a good friend, I've known him since school, I'll go down, watch him, show some support. And just got hooked into it, just as I imagine everyone else did growing up when they actually watched WWE or TNA growing up. It was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like the storytelling, the emotion from the crowd, the attention, and I was like, I want to give that a go. So I sort of spoke to him after, and one of the other friends that was also at that training school that we know from school, he was there, and he said, this was on a Saturday, and he said, we have a training session tomorrow. If you give me a lift to training, then you have to be there, and then you might as well give it a go. So I was like, sure, let's go. So I went there for a training session, and then was hooked on it ever since. Friday, Sunday for about a year and a half. I didn't miss a training session.
Awesome, very cool. So right now you're kind of on this media tour of sorts. Looking to chat with several podcasts.
Yeah.
Why'd you feel that this was the appropriate time in your career to make rounds like these?
Yeah. So I'd sort of built up a few years of catalogues of matches, got some experience, and now just wanted to get my name out there on the other side of the wrestling world of podcasts and social medias. You can grow with your matches and you can grow with social media, and I'm trying to now grow at both at the same time to really meet the maximum of my reach that I can, and especially like with yourself over in America. That is an absolute dream to wrestle over there. So even if I knew that there was a tour as such lined out, I'd fly myself over there. Just one, I love America. I love Americans. I love the American wrestling scene. So to be able to tick all of those boxes would generally be a dream come true. So to get to do a podcast with yourself and try and reach an American audience is an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I mean, again, we're certainly glad that you're gracing our show with your presence. I'm loving the conversation already.
Yeah, man.
You've mentioned the MMA background. So, what do you feel is the biggest learning curve? Would you say transitioning from MMA to pro wrestling?
The biggest transition. But quickly, I'll tell you first some similarities that people don't think about that you would sort of necessarily think of at the start, and that is footwork. Having the footwork and spatial awareness in a fight to understand where the middle of the ring is, where not to stand near the ropes or in a corner, having that transition into wrestling is a godsend and helped me out incredible amounts when I first started. But to transition over, one of the most different similarities is probably watching everyone watching you train, really, because when I don't know how for everyone else, but for myself at the school that I started at, even doing the bumps at the beginning of your training session, everyone would stand on the apron and watch you. And you do your back bump, your front bump, your side bumps, and a flip bump. And normally, obviously, in MMA, you watch your coach do a pad work drill, and then you go off with your partner, and you two are just focusing together. But then to have everyone watch you either succeed or do something shit, and then you have to like get a feedback from a bunch of different people with a bunch of different opinions and try and mold that into your own stuff. That was probably for me the biggest difference in training.
Cool. One thing I noticed on your profile, you've got this tweet pin that says it's all about the moment for the fans, even when it really hurts. So how do you connect with your fans to ensure that they have a memorable experience watching your matches?
Oh, lovely question. This is what I like being a heel. This is what I like being a bad guy. It's because everyone nowadays, especially the way the world's going, everyone's just pissed off. And some people don't have an outlet to get rid of that anger. So if I can just piss you off for 15 minutes or however long that match is, and you now have a face and a person to let some of that anger, some of that steam, some of that frustration, you can let some of that out on me, and that makes you feel that little bit better throughout the day that you've got something off your chest. That's my job done. Like, it's all good having everyone cheer you and applaud you and that, but to let someone get something off their chest that they might not necessarily have an outlet for in their day-to-day life, having them scream at you, boo you, try and fight you, just for that 15 minutes. Like, I'm sure they do the same for everyone else for the whole show, but just if I can tunnel in on you, if I know that you're there biting on the nibbles and I've got you, for that 15 minutes, you don't care about the stress of your life. You don't care about what you've got coming up, the stress of work, payments that you owe. 15 minutes, I'm the person that I am your anger. You can hit me with that, and that makes me happy knowing that they've been able to have an outlet.
Yeah. What would you say is the wildest thing that a fan has ever yelled at you?
It would be. It's funny because obviously with the MMA background, people aren't that brave to get that harsh with it. It's more of the squaring up to you, pushing you, thinking that they can go, and then they're like, and then because obviously some fans wait around outside or in the building after the show's done, and then you come out and meet everyone. And then now they're face to face and haven't got their friends with them, or they haven't got the adrenaline of everyone cheering and booing. And now they're like, okay, now what? Now what have you got to say? And they're like, oh, it's all we're all just playing up, man. It's all just part of the show. It's all part of the show. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, but of course. So it's more of things like that. I've not had, like, you get your typical. I used to get a lot of Conor McGregor stuff when I had the shaved head and the bigger beard. I got a lot of Conor McGregor wannabe, and that sort of got boring pretty quickly. That's more of the people trying to give it to you while they've got their friends around.
I like it. That definitely makes sense, especially going. I've seen it in indie shows too. People that definitely feel a lot bolder when they're in a crowd, and then change off rip for sure.
Absolutely, man.
So you're in the middle of a 14+ month reign as Ignite Pro champion. What are some of your favorite moments from this run?
Some of the big matches that over in England that I've been able to have with that title run, the storylines that we've been able to create. Again, as that heel, every match that title's on the line, they think is the match that's going to be the one that dethrones me. And obviously, I've lost it now. Literally not the last show, the show before, I had to drop it due to circumstances. But more of that. Yeah, you just feel that tension. The crowd, obviously, they hate me, so they want me to lose. But I'm so good that they respect me as a champion, but they still hate me enough that they want me to lose. And then that you play that storyline in the matches that they think that this is it, and then you take that away from them. That's the playing with the fans. That's what is the best for me.
Nice. What would you say is something you learned about yourself during that run?
I'm great at winding people up. Very, very good at winding people up. And being able to push myself. Like, there was a few times that I'd got a little hurt from like things like spine busters and sharp and aggressive impacts on the body, being able to, even though your body is literally screaming to stop, having that inner fight to just get up and just push through, and so mental resilience and toughness is a lot more than what I thought I had.
Nice. Well, hopefully you'll be back in the title hunt sooner than later. I'm sure that you're missing that strap around your waist.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Champ needs to come back.
I like it. So I found your masked Mount Rushmore on X. You've got Curryman, Shark Boy, Rey Mysterio, and Suicide. Name one quality about each of these wrestlers that you feel they have earned this place.
Shark Boy back in the day was obviously, now that I actually have seen some wrestling, I now know is obviously a bit of a spin off from Stone Cold. But back then, the old Shark that was pretty cool. Curryman was just an absolute Fruit Loop, absolute geezer. Rey Mysterio obviously is just the GOAT. Just some of the, having a small wrestler, especially in those days, he was sort of someone that the smaller people could look up to. And then Suicide, what a guy! Just that, I want to do a sort of a side character that is just fully covered. He's like mysteriousness, and just being fully covered. Didn't know who it was. Some of his, I haven't watched this stuff for a long time, but I remember being back in the day, like when there was a TNA game that if I was ever at my friend's house, we would play that, and I was always Suicide, because he was just, and then you'd come in. Oh yeah, no, Suicide just gets me gassing about it now.
I like it. I mean, those are great names, and there's a little bit of everything as far as generational talents there, as far as decades that they had their runs in. So definitely appreciate that. So we here at the Junkies, we as we wind down these interviews, and we've spent better part of 10-15 minutes talking about all things Corey McRae. So now I want you to give that spotlight to somebody else on the scene. Who are some names that we should be looking out for in
2020? Close personal friends. You got your Danny Blacks, Joe Lando, Callum Newman, and Maverick Mayhew. Those four. Callum's now in Japan, sort of following up under Will Ospreay's sort of wing. Those four boys are all incredible and all very talented in their own ways. Tate Mayfair, very good character. Absolutely loves the business. Has always worked his ass off, and deserves to be where he is. Bullet as well. If you like a bigger, sort of a monster sort of man. Those are the names that will jump out at me straight away. Definitely those guys. I would definitely recommend giving them a shout.
Love that. So for those in America that don't get an opportunity to watch a whole lot of the British scene, just give us kind of an elevator pitch of why they should.
If you like it's a bit of everything, really. I know America loves their sort of deathmatch styles or the hard hitting stuff, but in the indie scene, you have a bit. In the English indie scene, you have a bit of everything. You obviously have your technical wrestling, but nowadays it's so creative. It's so fast paced. There's a bit of a shoot style to it as well. The hard hitting style, similar from Pete Dunne and your Tyler Bates. A lot of aggression, vicious submissions, and it's a borderline. Like some, especially with my style of matches as well. You don't know what is a fight and what's the rest of the match. So you're always on the edge of your seat, and you've got the spectaculars of the athleticism in some of the high flies, and there seems to always be a Canadian destroyer in at least every match. So there's always something there that will interest everyone.
Well said. Very well said. So before I let you go, there's one question we ask every guest on this show, and it's a bit of an ongoing debate between the podcast dad and myself.
Okay.
When you hear Mr. WrestleMania, do you think Shawn Michaels or The Undertaker?
If he'd never have lost his streak, it's Undertaker without a question. But since they threw that away, it's got to be Shawn Michaels.
I like it.
With the streak, Undertaker. Without it, it's Shawn Michaels without a doubt.
Okay. I like that. Again, it's just something we like to ask everybody.
Who's yours? Who do you go for?
Shawn Michaels, hands down.
Yeah.
And a lot of my logic is, the streak is awesome, and I just kind of forget that 2014 ever happened.
Yeah.
But the quality of Shawn's matches throughout his WrestleMania career they've always been quality bouts. And
Yeah.
with Taker, it took a while to get to that point. I mean, the first couple of matches, especially that Giant Gonzalez match, you think of early Jim Snuka match, not a whole lot of quality or storytelling. But as time has gone on and that streak has created that aura, it's more of a 1A 1B for me as opposed to a 1 and 2. But Shawn Michaels, I think, all the way. Yeah,
that's a very good way of looking at it. No, spot on.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Appreciate it. Well, Corey, thank you so much for joining me today. Before we let you go, of course. Tell us what events you have coming up and where can everybody find you on social media?
Well, I'm in Germany coming up middle of March, doing a weekend over there with Unlimited Wrestling. I'm out there maybe 6 times this year. I'm trying to look to get to some other companies across in the world and especially in America. So if you know anyone, if you've got any links, please send them my way. I'd love to send my CV. And you can follow me on Instagram _Corey McRae. Twitter is Corey McRae something. It's there. And yeah, that's about it, really.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again for joining me, and definitely hope to have you back on the show soon.
Yeah, me too, bro. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, for Corey McRae, I'm Mr. Cincinnati. This has been a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast, and we'll talk to you guys soon.